25 metres back. Bernard Foley. It's got the legs. It's got the legs. The distance. Over!
Hello and welcome to Pick and Drive Rugby. We are the People's Podcast, providing a platform for rugby lovers to come together and support the game that's played in heaven. Now, this is our second episode of the week. This is our episode or our interview with Les Kiss. It's coming up very brief, very shortly. Lachie, great opportunity to chat with the Queensland Reds head coach. Very generous with his time, very generous with his answers. What was the standout for you? What are you most excited about from listening to that interview?
Yeah, hey Mitch, hey everyone. Great to have half an hour with Les Kiss. Super generous with his time and very open and honest about coming into the system, which had been under Brad Thorne for a really long time, and what he did with the bits that he liked and what he's doing with the bits that needed to be improved or evolved at Queensland. So I think everyone's going to really enjoy this chat. He's a very interesting bloke, sharp as a tack, I reckon. Wasn't giving too much away about the round one teams, but Mitch, I think it's certainly worth a listen.
Very much looking forward to it. And as a Waratahs fan as well, he was very generous towards the Waratahs. So I think I like him even more. But the fans are here to hear that interview with Les Kiss. Let's just get into it because, that's what they're here for. Let's go. I'm proud to welcome new head coach of the Queensland Reds, Les Kiss, onto the podcast. Les, how are you, mate?
I'm good. Just giving our new sponsor a bit of a wrap there, guys. But
fantastic.
Good to see you, Mitch. Good to see you, Lachie.
And you, Les. It's different having you this side of the screen. I'm usually right next to you in the press pack, mate. This is nice and informal.
Informal? I just need a beer in my hand. That's all. I'll be happy.
Fantastic. Now, Les, we're recording currently on a Monday evening or Monday afternoon your time. What's the schedule for yourself and the team today?
Basically, because we had the travel late yesterday and the Roma game to the late into the evening, we gave most of the guys up till about 12 o'clock off this morning, but the coaches are in earlier. We start earlier. We just work through the game together and ensure that we've got everything covered for our meetings from that. So we would have had a team meeting to set things off. The players would go into their back strength, while the forwards do a meeting, and then it'll swap. The backs will do the opposite, and the forwards will do the opposite. Then we move into what we would call it's a light install day in a way. We just install a few principles, a few little things we want to grow in our game, or indeed sometimes just fix. Some things that just weren't out in timing or in terms of roles, so we make sure we fix those things as well. A little bit different this week. In a normal week, we would probably be installing a plan, the beginnings of our plan for the opposition in the coming week. Because we have the week off, it's just a little bit differently, but we did install and go through a couple of things from the previous game against the Tars, and also some things that we're just trying to grow each week because, we only had a 7 or 8 week preseason, and it's there's a lot to try and fit in, but we're trying to logically build it so that it makes sense, and we're just growing things on a weekly basis.
And how did the team pull up after that game against the Waratahs on Saturday night?
They pulled up really good. We've had a really arduous, hot, humid preseason, so most of the training's been quite challenging in a lot of ways. So, the temperature was a bit lower. It was well into the evening. I think they appreciated those conditions. And although the ball in play in terms of the game was quite low against a normal Super Rugby Pacific game, we did get some high speed meters. We had a lot of collisions. There was a lot of scrums, a few mauls. So there was a good test across the park. But in terms of our bodies, they're sore, definitely. But they were all healthy today, which is really pleasing.
Now, this is your first stint at Ballymore for the Queensland Reds. How have you found coming back to Australia, and how have you found the team and the development that they've taken over the past few years?
Well, being away for 16 years, it was I didn't know what to expect first up. Obviously, we watch a lot of Super Rugby up the Northern Hemisphere, and everyone still is very interested in the Super Rugby competition up there. A lot of people really admire what the Wallabies and the Super Rugby teams here from Australia, what they can do, and obviously New Zealand. So there's a lot of interest in it. You watch it, but you are disconnected from it in a lot of ways when you're not on the ground here, seeing what the local media do, what the local stakeholders, the community rugby, and all those things that are in play. But I soon got my head around a couple of key things. When I researched it through the process of them talking to me about the role, I could see there was some great qualities here, without a doubt, some great qualities in play. I've said it often, and I don't say it lightly, but what Brad had built here is considerably impressive in terms of the boys. They know what it means to put that jersey on. They care about the place. They'll work hard. There is a lot of ambition and appetite in the place for sure. So there was some good qualities that I loved. I love the fact that Ballymore was going to come to life again. The foundations of any good, probably Australian rugby and Queensland rugby, Ballymore strong. So that's important. And in terms of the playing group, to tell you the truth, I didn't know any of them personally, but I could see that they wanted to find out how good they can be. And it was probably a logical challenge for me in some ways. And obviously, I've only had 6 months in the saddle here, but I've enjoyed every minute of it. We've pushed things. We've tried to make sure we know where we want to grow and really be certain about those things. But I haven't been here to be a change agent. I just want to be here and build on top of the qualities that are already here. So I've kept the same captains. There's not much change in the team. There's some strong things in place, and probably the major change has been in probably some with a totally new coaching team. Some changes in how we're playing the game, I guess.
And has the redevelopment of Ballymore in the past year or so changed or given the team a little bit of a different preparation this season than what the boys have experienced previously?
Whether you work out in the boondocks or whether you work on a beautiful facility like this, there's some things that are still so vital that you can't miss. I didn't hear them complaining about what they've had the last couple of years. A lot of teams have facilities that aren't quite right up to the mark, but the new facilities do offer one key difference, I guess, and that's the recovery facilities. Most of the recovery facilities would have been off-site in the last couple of years. Obviously, you use your bins and all that for ice baths and all that type of things, but to have the facility, providing the hot and colds and the sauna and just the capacity to be inside out of the heat, all those things certainly help it. The heat factor it surprised me. I underestimated it, to tell you the truth. It gets quite hot and humid, and I pushed the boys pretty hard at times, but maybe I don't know if I pushed them too hard at times, but it's a pretty challenging heat to work in consistently and constantly.
Les, you mentioned your predecessor, Brad, and the good things culturally that he was able to instill. Obviously, Brad went out Super AU title, most capped coach of the Reds modern era, but also Brad's win record was 45%. So there are clearly areas that you wanted to build upon. Could you shed a bit of light on those areas that you identified as needing improvement?
Well, yeah, just from watching it initially, I just thought possibly, knowing that they were going to move to a new centre, there was more workable space. We could include more people in the fold in terms of players in the group to be able to train together. So I brought Dale Robertson in close with us into the coaching group, who's our academy coach, and squad. Paul Carrozza has supported this, that we had the academy, anywhere up to 18 guys, and 20 guys work full time with the basically full-time with the first team. I've got to be careful there. And it wasn't full-time. It was in the minutes that they were allowed to train, you know what I mean? But they were in key full-time moments training with the first team. Probably the MO there is that, you know, just getting closer to the game. And that's looking at possibly pathways down the next year or two. So they're ready earlier to be able to come into the top program. So that was good. And the reverse side of that is, you know, guys like, you know, talking to Harry Wilson about it, you know, he got to know these young guys earlier, got close with them. So you're building those connections down the pathway, and they're the immediate pathway. Over the next 2 to 4 years, you know, you're going to get half a dozen to 10 of those guys coming through into our systems, but at least they've been exposed to it. So a lot of the change was in those systems that we could do, because with a new facility, an extra pitch was built. So we have 3 pitches here to work with. So we just had that capacity to do those types of things, which are important to us. The other parts of our system is that we've tried to have an open door for all our club coaches and school coaches to visit us and you know, join our coaching meetings when possible, team meetings, and obviously watch our training sessions closely and you know, create conversations where we all learn off each other, and most of the clubs have partaken in that, which has been good as well. On pitch, I had new coaches. You know, I'm a new coach. So there was a lot to build from the ground up. We tried to connect with some of the key qualities they have as a team now. You know, there's a lot of talent in this team. There's a lot of skill. There's a lot of, you know, massive power in different areas. So what we tried to do is work, not come in and put a system in place that they have to fit to. We tried to get that sweet spot where there's a certain style I do like. There's a certain way that I prefer, you know, building that closely with the coaches, and then bringing the players in play, just meeting in a spot where I feel that they wanted to be excited with, but also, you know, be able to find out how good they can be. Open the game up a fraction more. I'm a firm believer that the key tenets of the game must be in play. Your set piece, your defence, your kicking game, you know, all the key things, your passing skills and all those things. But I have encouraged probably a little bit more of an open play, just reading pitches, pull the trigger, have a go. You know, it can be dangerous. You know, sometimes you've got to wear a few errors along the way, but if I said from the start, don't make any errors, to play within yourself, I think that'd be unfair and unjust on the guys. To tell you the truth, I think if I want to find out and they want to find out, and we collectively get to a sweet spot where we understand our useful skill sets, we have to open that up a bit and go from there. So there will be some frustration with that, but nothing's ever perfect. You know what I mean? It has ebbs and flows. You've got to just work with it. And so just trying to get them comfortable about finding how they work with the plan that we've all put together and how we play, and go from there. One pleasing factor when we explored deeper, I was really happy with a lot of the guys know each other well, so it accelerated things. You know, the cohesion factor was high, and that's a big plus. And you know, it's been hard. It's been some frustrations and a lot of growth, but it's been enjoyable.
I think you can
One of the
certainly
challenges of
Oh, sorry, you go, Mitch.
I was going to say, one of the challenges of Super Rugby is that you've got different elements or different cultures all clashing within the one competition. You've got the way the Kiwis play rugby, you've got the Australian influence, you've then got the Pacific Islanders with the Drua and Moana Pacifica. When you're at this stage and developing a new style of game plan for the Reds and this team that you've taken over, how much do you look at how you want to play the game and just sort of making sure that your team plays the style that you want? And how much do you then look at the opposition, and do you potentially change that depending on if you're playing a Kiwi opposition as opposed to an Australian one?
I think it's a really good question, and I don't have the full answer yet. However, I do think, you know, if you've got to play the Kiwi teams, for one, you need to be good at the breakdown. Yeah, I mean, that's just a given. So trying to build how we look at the breakdown and how we believe it'll serve us the best was important, and ensuring that we got in front of the right things there. Our trial against the Force, we didn't quite nail it. Our friendly against the the TARs in the weekend, got closer to some things that we like in that area. But those things are going to be constant. And if we get that part right, we're a chance against the Kiwis. I think, I mean, I think tactically, some of the things we've talked about in terms of the Drua, in terms of how we manage our kicking game, are things that we've gone through, which would be different with some Aussie sides. By having a progressive, aggressive style of rugby that we want to pursue doesn't mean we don't kick. It means we have to kick smart at the right time. So some of those factors have been played in the coaches' box in our coaches' meetings as we plan how we expose the players to different parts of those things in training, being aware of those things. So those things have come into play, but not deeply yet. I'm still not trying to get my head around all the names and in the competition. You watch the Waratahs in the weekend, and you know some of the names, but not all of them deeply. So I'm still getting my head around that. But it is important to be able to flex your game for sure. You want to try and be a team for all seasons. I mean, it's one of the things in the Northern Hemisphere. You have distinct seasons, and you have to be able to adapt to those distinct seasons and work differently. It does mean you build your team slightly differently. You are on the top of the ground more here, so your team is a bit different. It's a bit more mobile in some senses. So some of the tactical challenges will be certainly different for sure. But even if you go down to the Highlanders and playing there, and you go up to Eden Park, sometimes the conditions can be quite different, can't they? So, but some of the key things, our set piece and our breakdown, and probably having a defence that makes sense in all types of conditions, I think is important for us as well. So we've tried to put those big rocks in place and then be able to grow off the top of it. There's so much to do at times, but you can't do everything at once. If you do 10 things, you only get that much done. We'll get the 3 things right. We possibly get those really good and just keep building those blocks upon block.
You've had a good chance now, Les, to look at the team now through trials, Panasonic, Challenger Series, the past 2 weeks. Are you pleased with the progression from what you started with? And do you have an idea of how round 1 might look?
Yeah, round 1 we play the Waratahs at Suncorp, 24th of February. So get along, everyone, please. Your support is vital. It's important. You're right. I've had a fair bit of time with a group of them, for sure. It's only probably been the last 4 or 5 weeks that I've started to see more of the Wallabies and some of the guys that have come back from injury. Last week we had 6 guys coming back from long-term injury, so we just got them into training and they're back into play now. So still finding out a little bit about them, and they're probably finding a little bit about me and the coaching team, and some clues have come through for sure. I mean, there's some things that are in play that in the coaches' rooms we're starting to form different types of teams that would suit the game that we think we want to play. The tactics, we've now had 2 games. We explored some of the things that we like to have tried. Some things have worked, some things haven't. What type of player can deliver the reliability and the certainty we want in certain areas are important. But we certainly have some things possibly in our minds where we think we'll go. That the likes of a Fraser and Harry and a Tate certainly makes sense from the start anyway. Fezler hooker definitely makes a sense, particularly the other hookers of sort of coming back from injury and working back in. Both Josh and Richie are now fully fit, so that's good. Josh Nasser and Richie Asiati. Some things do make sense already.
Sounding good. And I think that probably opens us up now, Mitch, to ask a few of our fan questions. There are a fair few that were submitted, Les. We've skimmed the ones that are a bit on the nose or a bit leading.
Here we go.
We might get you started with one of the boys, Harry Dale from the Draft Rugby podcast. He asks, what are the pros and cons of having 4 players all pushing for the fly half jersey? Would you prefer to pick and stick all year for cohesion, or are you happy to share time for the 4 players to find the right fit for the season?
Yeah, it's a tough question to start. Thanks, guys. Bloody hell. Look, I said from the start when I came here, I wanted to keep an open mind and make sure what we're doing can fit the players, and the players find out how they fit it and how they shape it. I tell you the truth, I'm really happy that all of them can give value to it in different ways, and have certain strengths that are quite different to the others. At the moment, with James has got a little bit of an injury, so he's not available immediately. But his qualities, that he could create space all the time, and he's just a thinker. And he's very, very good at taking the line on himself. So some of our qualities that we were building would have suited him nicely, but he can cover 12 and 15. So that flexibility is important. Lawson's someone similar who can do that. He can cover 12, which he did a lot of in the pre-Christmas. He's a very generous player and person in the team, Lawson. We only had 2 10s of those two. We didn't have any 12s at the time. So we put Harry McLaughlin Phillips at 10 and he played 12. So, he worked with that nicely. But he can cover 15 as well. He's an exceptional goal kicker. It helps, getting 7-14 is better than 5-10. In terms of if you score 2 tries, it makes a massive difference. Tommy Liner has these special skills. I watched his games from last year. He's certainly got speed, a great kicking game. He's a physical lad too. I was really, really impressed with that. He probably has more of a running, direct, take the line on. Harry McLaughlin Phillips, he's definitely got a triple threat. There's some real key learnings for him still. But, the other night I thought he handled himself with aplomb against the Tars. So every game he's growing and learning stuff. So I try to look at the upside to it. It is challenging to go to one player and say, listen, I'm sorry, it's not going to happen. But in the same side of the coin, I give someone else the joy that they're going to have the play. So I'm seeing the upside to it more than the downside, particularly. Well, I think Harry can play 3 positions. Tom could play, 10 and 15. So there is flexibility in it, and that really helps. It doesn't mean I'm going to have 4 in the team, but that flexibility certainly helps. So I'm enjoying that challenge. When I was at London Irish, we probably had, 1 for the most of the time, 2 sometimes, 2.5 sometimes. So having that choice is beautiful, really. I got to say, I'm loving it. I'm loving it.
On that theme of choice, Saint Drogo asks, how do you consider, or what do you consider when trying to fit both Campbell and Pataya into a back line together? And then his follow-up question is, should all backs on the bench be able to play multiple positions?
Well, I like nines who can play on the wing and fill a wing. I think that's an important part of 9 play. I like one other player in the back line to be able to slot into 9 if we need to. I do like those types of things. But 9's a very specific position. It depends if you go a second 5. If you have a 10 and a 12 that are both ball players, I think they can flex between positions. But in general, 9 and 10 are fairly specific. The rest of them, I like them to be able to play across the park. I think and this isn't the only way I look at it, but one key thing is the number in your back. You've got to know your set piece, your starter, how you play the initial phases of everything. From there, I like them to be able to blend a bit and not get lost in trying to move to one position that's probably not helpful at the time. If you've got wingers going here, then he runs away to get back to his wing because he should be there when there might be an opportunity and something evolving in front of him. I'd rather him stay alive in that. And I don't mind if a winger wanted to be first receiver. Sometimes that's a deadly proposition. Look at Talaya, Rokokoko used to do it. Those boys get the ball in their hand, first receiver, and those big forwards suddenly start going, oh. So you can create havoc with those things. So I like them to be engaged in the game. I like them to be flexible, but we do like them to have their specific skill sets come to the fore, particularly on our first and second phase attack and defence. That's the key moment for me in terms of backs. In general, with back play, if you get out last off a ruck and you're a 13, don't try and chase 13. If the winger's gone, stay on that edge for a while. It'll work out. It'll work out somewhere. So I prefer that flexibility, but you need to know your role as a back starter, whatever number you've got in your back, and you've got to make sure that's nailed down for sure.
Good. Moving on to a couple more of our fan questions, and we'll only have 3 more, I think, Les. So there's an end date. You're almost through, mate.
No, it's been
Submission
good fun.
from
Thank you.
submission from a fan, Nick Wilson. He says, under the Reds, there have been times in the past few seasons they've been held back by on-field discipline issues and penalties. Nick Wilson believes this is something similar for London Irish when you're in charge. Is discipline issues something you've noticed? And if so, what are you doing to address this?
It's an important thing. Discipline's has many descriptions, I guess. Just doing the little things right's discipline, but in terms of in the wrong place for penalties and cards and all those things, it's a massively important part of the game. If you want to be a player in the Red, you need to be able to be disciplined, without a doubt. Now, I'm not saying accidents can't happen; they will, but you've got to be squeaky clean, push the line, and you've got to be good at that. It's important to manage that penalty count and the card system. So recognise that there was some high penalty counts. Recognise that there were some cards that came about, but we've addressed it in training. We do measures in our vision, and we'll challenge the guys, and we'll put the data up and show them the numbers in training sessions, and slowly but surely improve those components of our game, particularly in terms of our ruck work and our offside, those types of things. In terms of the cards, look, we had a few at London Irish for sure. We played a fast game there, and a fairly a game where it happens quickly. So some of those things did go awry, but it wasn't badness. It was just the speed of moments just got us. So we need to be better for sure. But we tried to make sure we address our body height change here massively, and it's important in terms of this contact world to make sure your body height's at the right height, be effective, lower to the ground, be able to move quickly, and reshape your body to be able to keep head away from head. It's difficult. It's really difficult. It's a tough place at times, and things can just happen. But it's something we have tried to make sure we got in front of for sure, and be aware of the upside of being disciplined for sure. It's important.
Has there been any work done with the Australian referees, particularly the ones that will be adjudicating some of the Australian Super Rugby games?
We've had one or two sessions, around the set piece and just running some 15 on 15, just in terms of them giving us feedback as well, but also just for them to hear a different voice in the middle rather than the coaches there, and see how they handle it. But a few occasions, not many, but just enough just to get ourselves in front of them. It's not overused, that's for sure.
Les, a final question from our fans before we wrap things up. Eli asks, would you like to see the Reds move their home games back to Ballymore through the season?
If we get this, which I believe there's a lot of people moving in the direction to build the stand on the other side, shape the hill so we can put people on there effectively. If we can get around a 16,000 stadium, maybe 15 to 17, 18,000, I'm not sure what that'll be in the end, but that's good enough. That's a brilliant boutique stadium. I'm used to that in England and the URC and all those. Played all around those boutique stadiums. If we put 15 or 16,000 at a packed Ballymore, mate, you'll take the roof off. It'll be fantastic. So if we got to those situations, definitely like to look at it. Obviously, there's considerations with how we would share that with our time with Suncorp, because I still think on the big occasions you need that place. That's something that hopefully we can do over the next year is build that following stronger and more consistent. That's part of our job, isn't it, to entertain and make sure we put a product there that they want to follow and get our good people behind us in a really strong way. But yes, it's something I think is worth considering if we can get the right place here to make it work. Definitely be nice to have some big games here. we also have touring games. I mean, if touring games can come, or that people come over, that's the ideal place to have them to. So yes, it's a big part of it all, I think, and it's one of the things that excited me for sure, that Ballymore's coming back to life. But for now we've got Suncorp. As I said, Saturday 24th, we got the Tars again, and that's going to be a nice juicy one, isn't it?
Well, it wasn't too long ago that we had pretty big, nearly full stadium at Suncorp for the Aussie Super Rugby AU final against the Brumbies. So there is appetite there for Queensland rugby fans who want to see the Reds do well. We do wish you all the best with the season. We do know where the sport unfortunately sits at the moment in the commercial side of things, particularly with the Wallabies' performance last year. Super Rugby is only a few weeks away. What message do you have to those Queensland fans and the wider Australian rugby fans as well for this upcoming season? What sort of hope do you have that you can get them excited, and why should they be down at Suncorp barracking for the Reds?
I'm really positive about Australian rugby. I don't think it sounds weird anymore. I've said it enough times, because there's a massive talent base here. When you get around to the clubs and you travel, and someone knows, there are a lot of people saying, "Good luck, hope it goes well," and people want to see good things happen. So I'm optimistic about a lot of things in Australian rugby. We can turn things around in this country within 12, 18 months easily, I think. In the bigger picture, RA have made some decisions. I think the people they've put in play will be able to really help us drive that. My job's to make sure I, along with my coaches and my professional staff and the players here, is to put together something that's compelling, that interests people, that people get curious about. They say, "What's happening here? This looks exciting," and get some of our traditional fans back, and maybe just generate that interest again. How will we do that? It's important that we're open to the public, that we want to connect with the community. We've been out to regional centres, Roma recently. We're getting out to clubs. The clubs are coming in here and working with us. So the Challenge Series last year got to know at least 50 to 100 club players now. So just connecting with everyone in the communities is as important as just staying in this beautiful centre. So those things are important for us. But we understand that winning matters, and it does matter. So hopefully we've got a style of game that's exciting, but also does the hard gritty things well. I would like our good people who come to support us, and people who want to explore about us and be curious, is to see a team that's willing to, what I've seen anyway, they're willing to fight hard and bleed for the jersey. They don't just put it on to wear it. They want to sweat and bleed in it. And I want everyone to feel very proud about what they see on a weekly basis. To be on the try line in the 79th minute and keep them out and get a win. Those things are important moments. So that's the type of mindset that we're trying to create internally here, and hopefully that is felt by everyone who comes to support us and is considering supporting us. I was very curious. Get out and see what we're about. 24th February, Suncorp, 7. Jim, what time? 7:30ish. Be there.
Well, thanks so much for your time this evening, Les. Thank you for joining us and chatting all things Super Rugby, and particularly Queensland rugby. We wish you all the best with the season. And I'm a Waratahs fan, so don't bash our Waratahs too hard like you did on the weekend, but go well through this season. We want to see as many Aussie super sides as in those finals come the end of the season.
Mate, it'll be tough. Waratahs, these are great games. We're not going to take too much from that, just as the Waratahs won't either. It's going to be a cracker. It's a great way to start the season, without a doubt. So we're looking forward to it. You want to play the best. It starts with one of the best. So we're looking forward to it. So thanks again, guys. I appreciate your time, and I look forward to seeing everyone at Suncorp.
Fantastic. Thanks.
Yeah,